Alrighty guys, we're coming fresh off a perfect 6-0 day in my personal sports bets on my website yesterday. And the only way you could access those 6 winners is to be a board member on that site. Not only do board members get access to the board member tier package bet itself, you also get access to every single personal bet, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. The math works out to be just $1.66 a day. And in addition to all that, you're also going to get full access to my board member podcast video as well. But before we go ahead and move on, just want to take a quick time out and welcome you to our college basketball free pick video here today for Thursday, February 16th, 2023. Happy Thursday to you. Weekend is right around the corner. My name is Brock Page. I've been doing sports picks for free on YouTube since 2016. I also sell my personal sports bets on patreon.com/BrockPage. And once again, guys, I went a perfect 6-0, my 6 personal plays on that site yesterday. And once again, the only way you could have accessed all 6 of those winners is to be a board member on that site. Our full access, all-inclusive board member package gives you access to every single personal play, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. The math works out to be just $1.66 a day. Most other handicappers are going to charge a couple $100 just for a day or two of service. Now, you may be wondering what the difference is between what I do here on YouTube and what I do on my website. Well, what I do here on YouTube is I'll handicap the entire slate of games in any given sport, side and total. And what I do on my website is I actually share with you which one of these free plays on these videos that I'm actually betting on personally. I currently have over 550 members who are signed up and active on that site right now. And with that, let's go ahead and dive into some free content. We're going to take a look at Purdue at Maryland, 6:30 p.m. East. Purdue's -1.5 on the road, totals 132 and a hook. Now, this is an awfully generous number for a team as good as Purdue. These guys are a top 20 shooting team from the field on the road. When it comes to rebounding the basketball, they could very well be the best rebounding team in the nation. Zach Edey averages 13 rebounds a game and leads the team with 22 points a night. Now, the 7'4" center is in the top 5 in the country in both of those categories I just mentioned. Meanwhile, Braden Smith and Mason Gillis, they're drilling over 40% of their three-pointers respectively. They're taking on a Maryland team on the other side of things who's little threat shooting the three-pointer themselves. These guys are making only 28% of their long balls in the Xfinity Center. And in their last 10 meetings with Purdue, the Terps have been held to just 64 points a game offensively. They went just 3-7 in those 10 contests against the Boilermakers. Now, total-wise, Maryland went 6-3 to the under in their last 9. While Purdue saw unders against the likes of Northwestern, Minnesota, and this very Maryland squad. I'm going to lean toward Purdue, -1.5, under 132 and a hook. Next game, Houston, SMU, 7 o'clock Eastern start time. Houston's -15.5, totals 138 and a hook. Now, the Cougs are arguably playing better basketball on the road than they are at home. Houston's a perfect 8-0 straight up in their road games. 2-0 at neutral sites. When it comes to defensive play, the Cougs are giving up only 59 points a game in their travels. Marcus Sasser has 42 steals on the year and a handful of blocks. Sasser's also averaging 16 points a game offensively. Meanwhile, Jarris Walker, he's scoring nearly a dozen points a game himself. And he knocks down 40% of his long balls. They're facing an SMU team who lost 7 out of their last 10. And they successfully covered in just 30% of those contests. Now, the Mustangs have also got themselves a losing record at home this year. And they're arguably the worst defensive rebounding team in the AAC. Now, total-wise, SMU averaged only 63 points a game in their last 10 meetings with Houston. So if you're into historical trends, certainly want to think about that one there. And no real surprise, guys. 6 out of those 10 ball games I just mentioned stayed under the total. While Houston saw unders recently against the likes of Tulsa, Wichita State, and Temple. I'm going to lean toward Houston, -15.5. Under 138 and a hook. Next game, it is going to be UCF taking on Memphis, 8 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Memphis is -6, totals 150. Now, the Tigers have been real tough to beat in the FedEx Forum. They're 11-1 straight up at home, and they're in the top 20 in the country in guarding the field goal in their own building. Memphis is limiting their competition to just 38% shooting from the field in their own arena. DeAndre Williams, he has 35 steals and 23 blocks on the year. He's also second on the team in scoring with 17.5 points a game. Meanwhile, teammate Kendrick Davis, he leads the team in scoring with over 21.5 points a night. He's currently in the top 10 in the NCAA in points per game and assists. Now they're facing a Central Florida team who lost 5 out of their last 7, and they have a tough time offensively on the road. The Knights are scoring only 66 points a game in their travels, and they're barely making 40% of their field goals. Now, injury-wise, Michael Durr still out. Jalen Young is questionable. When it comes to the total, UCF 6-1 to the over in their road games. Meanwhile, Memphis went 64% to the over in all of their ball games this year. Give me Memphis -6 over 150. Next contest I have for you, it is going to be Colorado taking on Arizona State. 8 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Arizona State's -2.5, totals 138. Now the Sun Devils won 3 out of their last 4. And they're playing some incredibly tough defense. These guys are limiting their opponents to just 38% shooting from the field. As a matter of fact, they're currently in the top 10 in the entire country in defensive field goal percentage. And no real surprise here, guys. They're limiting their competition to just 29% shooting from three-land at home. Desmond Cambridge, he has 37 steals and 14 blocks on the season. He's also the team's leading scorer. Meanwhile, teammate DJ Horn, he's scoring nearly a dozen points a game himself. Now they're facing a Colorado team on the other side of things who's got just 1 road victory on the season. These guys actually lost 8 of 9 while traveling, and they're shooting just 40% from the field in those road games. Now, when it comes to the number 6 out of Arizona State's, let's try that again. 6 out of Arizona State's last 10 head-to-head meetings with Colorado stayed under the number. Meanwhile, the Buffaloes went 6-3 to the under in their last 9 themselves. Give me Arizona State -2.5, under 138. Next matchup, little Big Ten action. I'm talking about Ohio State at Iowa, 9 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Iowa's -7.5, totals 152 and a hook. Now, the Hawkeyes should steamroll these guys at home. They're scoring nearly 90 points a game in the Carver Hawkeye Arena. Also 12-2 straight up in front of their own fans. Chris Murray scoring 21 points a game along with 8.5 boards. Meanwhile, Phil Rebraca averages 8 rebounds a game himself, and he ranks second on the team in points. And once again, the Hawkeyes are in the top 10 in the country right now in home offensive points per game. Now they're facing a struggling Ohio State team on the other side who lost 9 out of their last 10 outings, and they actually have only 1 road win all year long. The Buckeyes are just 1-7 in their travels, and they failed to cover 7 times during that span. Now, Ohio State's also amongst the worst defensive rebounding teams in the Big Ten on the road, so you certainly want to think about that if you're firing on this game. Now, scoring-wise, the Buckeyes gave up 77 points a game in their last 10 meetings with Iowa, so once again, if you're into historical trends, definitely want to think about that one there. And no real surprise here, guys. The over cashed in 60% of those ball games, those head-to-head games I just mentioned. Now, Iowa's 10-4 to the over in their road trips themselves. Give me Iowa -7.5, over 152 and a hook. Next ball game, it is going to be Utah taking on Arizona, and that's going to be a 10 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Arizona's -11, totals 148. Now, the Wildcats have been tough to slow down offensively this year. These guys are a top 10 scoring team in the nation, and they're making 51% of their field goals at home. When it comes to rebounding the basketball, Arizona's in the top 5 in the country in offensive boards per game. Omar Ballo's grabbing over 8.5 rebounds a night. He's also scoring 14 points a game. Meanwhile, Azzi Tabelis, he's scoring a team-high 20 points a game. He's also averaging 9 rebounds a night. Now, they're facing a Utah team who's having all kinds of problems on the road offensively. They're scoring just 59 points away from campus. They're also going to work without their second leading scorer, Gabe Madsen. He's out with a leg injury. Now, total-wise, Utah 7-1 to the under as the official road team. Meanwhile, Arizona saw unders against the likes of Oregon State, Wazoo, and UCLA. Give me Arizona minus 11, under 148. Next ball game, Cal, USC, 10 o'clock East. The USC Trojans are minus 16, totals 130. Now, USC is 12-1 at home, and they hold their opponents to just 39% shooting from the field. Drew Peterson has 20 blocks on the year and 29 total steals. He's also second on the team in scoring. Meanwhile, Boogie Ellis averages nearly 17 points a game himself. They're facing a Cal team who lost their last 9 straight, and they have just 3 wins overall for the year. And no real surprise here, guys. The Golden Bears are currently winless on the road. They're actually scoring only 56 points a game in those road contests. And when it comes to the scoring, Cal's 75% to the under away from campus this year. Meanwhile, USC saw unders in 6 out of their last 10. Give me USC minus 16, under 130 in that tight window. Next matchup, Gonzaga at Loyola Marymount, 11 o'clock East. Gonzaga's minus 8 on the road, totals 153.5. Now, the Zags covered the number just 1 time on the road this season. They're only 1-6 against the spread as the official road team. And if you include neutral site contests, Gonzaga went just 2-11 against the number in all of their contests away from home this year. Now, the Bulldogs' biggest issue is their defensive play. These guys are allowing nearly 78 points a game as the official road team. And they're also letting their opponents knock down nearly, you ready for this? 40% of their three-pointers against them in that same category. Now, they're facing a Loyola team on the other side who covered in 7 out of their last 9 themselves. And, of course, that includes an outright victory over Gonzaga on January 19th. Beat them outright, held them to, I think it was just like 68 points. Now, the lines have also been real tough to beat at the Gersten Pavilion. These guys are 12-2 in front of their own crowd. Cam Shelton has 50 steals on the year and a handful of blocks. Now, Shelton is also the team's leading scorer with nearly 21 points a game. Meanwhile, Kaylee Lopepe, he's drilling 42% of his shots from beyond the arc. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Lions are averaging just about 80 points a game in their own arena. Now, no surprise here, total-wise, Loyola's 63% to the over for the entire season. Meanwhile, Gonzaga saw their last 3 straight get over the line. I'm going to lean toward Loyola Marymount, plus 8, keeping this one close, over 153.5. Next matchup, it is going to be Stanford, UCLA, 11 o'clock Eastern start time. UCLA is minus 14, totals 131. Now, the Bruins are undefeated in Pauley Pavilion. They're 13-0 in front of their own crowd, and they allowed just 58 points a game there. As a matter of fact, the Bruins are currently in the top 10 in the country in defensive points per game. Jalen Clark has 65 steals on the season and a handful of blocks. He's also second on the roster in points. Meanwhile, Jaime Jaquez, he averages a team-best 16 points a game, along with 8 rebounds. Now, they're facing a Stanford team on the other side of things who has just 1 road win on the year, and they average only 62 points a game in those road contests. When it comes to defensive play, the Cardinal actually has one of the highest defensive three-point percentages on the road in the Pac-12. Now, injury-wise, James Keefe is questionable for Stanford. When it comes to the total, Stanford saw unders recently against the likes of Arizona State, Cal, and Oregon. Meanwhile, UCLA's 10-4 to the under against conference opponents. I'm going to lean toward UCLA minus 14, under 131. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup for the video. It is going to be Oregon State taking on Wazoo, 11 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Washington State's minus 13, totals 122. Now, the Cougs should be able to take care of business here. They're 8-3 in their own arena, and they allowed just 61 points a game there. Mo Guy has 22 blocks on the season and 20 steals. He's also the team's second leading scorer. Meanwhile, TJ Bama's scoring nearly 15 points a game himself. They're facing an Oregon State team who's one of the worst road scoring teams in the country. These guys are currently averaging just 58 points a game in their travels. They're also arguably the worst offensive rebounding team on the road in the Pac-12. Now, injury-wise, Mario, Rochlin, and Stevens are questionable for the Beavs. Keep an eye on their status if you're looking to fire on this game. When it comes to the total, Oregon State 7-2 to the under in their last 9 on the road. They're also 72% to the under for the entire season. Meanwhile, Wazoo went 63% to the under for the whole year. I'm going to lean toward Washington State minus 13, under 122.